SCRUM Right by Robert R. Betcher, PMP CSM, copyright 2013. So what is Scrum? Scrum, by definition, Scrum is an iterative and incremental agile software development framework for managing software projects and product or application development. Its focus is on a flexible, holistic product development strategy where a development team works as a unit to reach a common goal, as opposed to a traditional sequential approach. There are the following components that comprise of Scrum: the who, which is the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team; the what, which is a product backlog, which in some cases can be broken down into a release backlog, then a team backlog, then a sprint backlog. For the sake of simplicity and to follow the KISS principles, which translates to fewer points of failure, I urge new teams to keep it simple and start off with a product backlog and sprint backlog. The why, to add some form of structure to a project. A methodology helps move teams into the same direction, so the team can have some form of cadence where deliverables from multiple teams can be synchronized. The when. Every 2 to 4 weeks is when there is an expected deliverable. This time frame is in place within Scrum and other methodologies to ensure teams are going down the right path. It allows for course correction quickly in case a deliverable does not meet the business need or the team may be moving in a direction that is not within scope. The where. Anywhere in the world there is a project to be completed. The how. By following the methodology's strengths and implementing it effectively. So how does Scrum work? It starts with business case and funding, contractual agreement, vision, initial product backlog, initial release plan, stakeholder buy-in, assemble team. Next is updates to the product backlog or grooming the backlog, followed by a release sprint planning meeting, the daily cycle or daily scrum, the product increment or release, which is handled by the following roles: product owner, Scrum Master, team members, stakeholders, users, all of which feed into the sprint review and sprint retrospective. Now, delving into the Scrum process a little more in depth, you will see that the product backlog is not only the starting point for all releases sprints, it is all the central point of Scrum, where everything ties back into. The product backlog can be broken down even further into a release backlog, which can be broken down into a team backlog, which finally can be broken down into a sprint backlog. However, when breaking down the product backlog in this manner, a layer of complexity is added each time. I would not recommend this approach of breaking down the backlog into releases or teams until the atmosphere has become well accustomed to Scrum. Also, in following the Keep It Simple or KISS principles, every time you make something more complex, there are more failure points. More failure points decrease the chances for success. The backlog then feeds into a sprint, which can be 15 to 30 days or 2 to 4 weeks. Most commonly, 2 weeks is used in most atmospheres. During the sprint cycle, there is a 24-hour period where work is completed. After every 24 hours, typically only during business days, the team reconvenes as a group for the 15-minute daily Scrum meeting. During this meeting, the team members answer the following 3 questions. What did you do since last Scrum meeting? Do you have any obstacles? What will you do until next Scrum meeting? The process continues until finally new functionality is delivered. In the most simplest terms, Scrum begins with project preparation. The backlog is updated with typically a backlog grooming session. A sprint planning meeting follows. The daily cycle begins with the daily Scrum and the team's work. The product increment / a release. A sprint review and retrospective takes place. Then the cycle begins again. Within the Scrum process, there are going to be artifacts. Depending on the environment, these can include business requirement documents, BRDs, or technical requirements diagrams, system, workflow, DB, UML, mockups, wireframes, and so on, all of which can be tied to a specific user story. I have always been fond of mock-ups and wireframes for Scrum, since Scrum is about efficiency and effectiveness. Wireframes and mock-ups can tell a story with one page of graphics that would usually take 10 pages worth of textual descriptions in a typical use case or business requirement document. Also, this gives a clear picture of the business need without confusion or misinterpretation. All of the artifacts and processes are then brought together with the team to make up Scrum in its entirety. In the most simplest terms, the Scrum process is made up of a product backlog, which are basic requirements with each feature prioritized by the product owner client. The product backlog is broken down into workable units for a sprint within the sprint backlog, which are features within the sprint that are estimated and committed to by the team. The sprint will last 1 to 4 weeks, where every 24 hours the team works and meets on the status until a shippable product is produced at the end of the sprint. At the end of the sprint, the team will converge to conduce a sprint review, where often demos take place and a retrospective. In a nutshell, this is the sprint process. Many may have witnessed this before. It is a Kanban board. The Kanban board is utilized by teams that may or may not be using Scrum software. It is a very simple method of tracking tasks within the sprint. Each team member places a post-it with their task or tasks on the board in the To-Do section. As the work begins for the sprint and the team member starts work on the task, the sticky moves from the To-Do column to the In Progress column. When the work is considered done and meets the definition of done criteria, or the conditions of satisfaction, it moves into the Done column. This board is typically placed in a central location for the team where the daily scrums are conducted, or in a collaboration room. About the author. My experience. My career began as junior developer with Visual Basic 4.0. After working my way up to team lead architect role in Java, I switched over to management, then project program management, where I've worked on the following types of projects: Java development, .NET development, database migrations, document imaging, infrastructure/VoIP, data warehouse, identity management, infrastructure migration. In my spare time, I write articles about project management that can be found on ezines.com, and found that I really know only a fraction of what there is to know in technology and management.